Since our school changed its principal, everything has changed there. This school has become like a prison, like some kind of cage, and the most terrible thing is that our parents only approve of the actions of the new principal. But one day, it almost ended tragically. In general, look, and you will see for yourself. My name is Debbie. All my childhood, I studied at the same school, and as long as I can remember, it was the most ordinary, boring, and gray school ever. We, as in many other schools, organized competitions in sports events. Sometimes excellent students and activists held charity events, but in general, it was boring. But then, news broke into our stable gray life. Our previous principal, Mr. Finley, had passed away. It turned out that he was drunk and had an accident. It was strange because he never drank at all for as long as we knew him. The case was closed as an accident, although we were shocked, but we were told that they would soon find a new principal, and for now we should just focus on our studies. It was difficult to do this the first week. Many of us went to his funeral, where a heartbroken Mrs. Finley nearly went mad with misery. He is survived by 3 daughters. I was really sorry about what happened, but before we had time to recover from the shock, a new head came to our school. It was a woman named Mrs. Norfield. She used to be a principal of a school elsewhere and was transferred to us on a recommendation. It's rumored that she was the best at what she did, and that the school she ran previously had the most students with good grades. And although our parents, again, were only happy about the change, I still doubted that she could really change our lives for the better. At the first assembly, when she was introduced, I noticed that she had a slight twitch. She kept touching her hair. She had a stone-like hairstyle from liters of hair gel, but she constantly touched it, twirled her short curls on her finger. The hairspray was crumbling and falling like dandruff on the shoulders of her black jacket. I wondered if I was the only one who noticed it. Mrs. Norfield was an older woman, very thin, with bones sticking out even on her wrists. It was creepy. I know for a fact that skinny old ladies are not good. The first rule she introduced in the school was strict restrictions on the school grounds. That is, all the students had to follow a given trajectory, to the classrooms where the lessons are held, and then immediately home. If we were late, her assistant immediately notified our parents, and if we didn't come, they called the parents, and we received a failure on a subject. Yes, a failure. Maybe this was how she wanted to assert herself, to feel power over her students. Yet there were quite a few of us, as many as 1,500 people, and she was alone. But she managed to strangle everyone with a single hand. Naturally, her innovations did not benefit us. Many children have deteriorated relations with their parents, and also bad situations at home. This greatly affected the spiritual state of all the children. We became more irritable, nervous, and were surrounded by a sense of anxiety. And as a result, conflicts between students became more frequent. But Mrs. Norfield found a way out of that, too. She hired private security at the expense of our parents, and now we were like real prisoners being supervised by a warden. They were in every building, keeping order in the corridors, classrooms, and even on the street. These fucking Terminators just stared at us the whole time. It was hard to even breathe. Every step we took and every conversation we had was controlled and pressured. And any conversations we had with our parents all ended with, "It's all for your own good." But what kind of benefits could this lead to? We still didn't understand. Finally, something exploded within us, and we decided to act. The only way out was to find dirt on the headmistress and either force her to fulfill our conditions with the dirt or simply kick her out of the school. Forever. First of all, my classmates Brendan and Louise and I tracked her route from work to home. And here's the interesting thing. We watched her for almost a week, and we noticed that she visits a psychological hospital. We couldn't get too close to her, but we were lucky that Brendan's father is in the FBI. Brendan managed to crack the password to his father's computer at home. It was easy to do. And while his father was asleep, he went into the database, found the hospital's website, and then the lists of all those who are registered there. Yes, it was our teacher. There was a photo of her, but what is most interesting, she had a different name. Far from being Mrs. Norfield, her name was Jessica Stan. Bingo. The trump card was already in our hand, so all we had to do was talk to her. The very next day, we made a list of our conditions, including the abolition of total control, and that we wanted everything to return to the way it was before. After reading them, the principal said that she was not going to discuss her work with students, and even more so, she was not going to go along with us. And if we say that you don't want this, then you will have to explain long and hard to our parents the fact that you work under a pseudonym and got a job at our school, although you are registered in a mental hospital. Right, Miss Jessica Stan? The words made her eyes go round. She was taken aback, closing the office door and then sitting down in a chair. "What do you want?" she asked, and we again pushed our paper over to her with our conditions. At first, she tried to make adjustments, but when she saw our attitude, she agreed. We made some sort of deal in exchange for our silence. She kept her word, even though it took more than a month. But she managed to restore the school to its former appearance. A school, not a prison. And it seemed that everything was over, that everything would be as fine as before. But it had only just started. We didn't think about the consequences that we would have to deal with in the future. A while later, Brendan's father noticed that something was wrong with his computer. He also found the information about our director there and decided to pay her a visit. At first, she tried to behave calmly, but then, from the office, we all heard screams, then a gunshot. I was standing in the hallway with my friends and we were really scared. But Brendan was most afraid for his father. Someone called the police, and we ran toward the office. There were a few more screams, and then our headmistress ran out. Her blouse was stained with something red, and Brendan's father was lying on the floor, unconscious. At the sight of his dad, Brendan attacked her. He threw her to the ground and began to shout that if she had killed him, she had killed his father. And she was beside herself, as if she had just woken up. She was scared and said she couldn't understand what was going on. We barely managed to drag him off of her, and in a minute, the ambulance and the police arrived. Fortunately, Brendan's father was still alive. It was rumored that he had started asking uncomfortable questions to the director. Then she seemed to go mad, took a gun from her table and fired, hitting him in the shoulder. We were all pretty scared, but the worst part was that she didn't seem to remember it. Miss Stan looked like a child who had been locked up and left alone in a dark room, and we watched the horror in the eyes of the whole school. She was taken to the police station in front of everyone, and only then did we realize that it was our fault, that we were to blame for everything, because if we had not started the war first, it wouldn't have gone this far. But now it was too late for regrets. She was arrested for assaulting a security officer, and then a medical examination was conducted. It turns out that our director lost her son many years ago. He went to a school where criminals broke in daily. He got stabbed, and she couldn't survive the grief for a long time and began to go mad. She was diagnosed with mild schizophrenia, underwent a long treatment, but then went on the mend. In this state, Miss Stan wanted to start a new life and made new documents, worked as a director for several years, and then came to us. Thanks to her success, she began to feel better, but then we uncovered the sore that she had been suppressing all these years. And her remission from schizophrenia was interrupted, and it flared up with double force. We had deprived a person of a second attempt to start a new life. It is now clear to us that her desire for a safe environment in schools wasn't for nothing. Everyone has their reasons. I realize that it is impossible to jump to conclusions and so carelessly handle a dangerous weapon, information. Tell me, did you guys like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video. Do not forget to put likes, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.